Welcome to Marketing Happy Hour, a weekly podcast helping marketing professionals and entrepreneurs build better strategies and hit career goals. I'm Cassie.
And I'm Allie. We're marketers and your hosts through these unfiltered convos with your peers and experts in the space.
Let's dive in. Grab your favorite drink and let's get to this week's episode. We are very excited to have Blair Lancer here today with us, CMO of Lancer Skincare. So excited to dive into just the story behind the brand, their philosophy. I will say Allie and I have been absolutely loving our products so far, and so I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more. But Blair, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. And I'm so excited to hear that. I know we were just chatting, but music to my ears.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm really curious. I'm actually going to switch up this question a little bit now that I'm thinking about it. I would love to know, one, of course, what's been in your glass lately? And then number two, what's your current favorite Lancer skincare product?
Perfect. Okay, well, I keep my skincare and beverages the same. Very, very simple. I never really switch them up. I have recently, and I know now it's warm out today, but it was cold. I am such a hot water with lemon girl or a fresh peppermint tea girl. Those are so big for me. I never switch those out. But I would love to switch out for an Aperol Spritz soon because it is beautiful. What is my favorite product? Okay, I know we just talked about this. The method is my core. I know technically that's three products. If not, I would count that, but the polish. The polish has been our bestseller number one since like the day we launched. I cannot go a day without it. I know certain people have to build up to it if you're not used to using an exfoliator daily. This was formulated to be used every single day. It's gentle enough. And I swear, I was just telling you, if I don't use it for a day, like I can actually see a difference in my skin. I can feel a difference. Like I'm so addicted. So,
Yes, I love it. We were also telling you off record that that has been a favorite of ours. Again, just like, tangibly, visibly cleaner, smoother. It's amazing. So highly recommend. We'll have all the links to the products below. So definitely check those out. But Blair, with that too, if you don't mind, like introduce yourself for us
sure.
and tell us a little bit more about the brand too.
Totally. So, my dad is a practicing dermatologist. I always had this innate desire to carry on his legacy, but I never wanted to be a doctor. I thought dermatology was absolutely not happening for me. So, my background is actually in fashion. I studied fashion at NYU for undergrad, all my internships, et cetera. Everything was in that space. And then I believe it was junior year, I landed, I think it was in the EEP program at Saks, if that's what it's still called. So I worked there. That turned into a full-time position. And I was actually shocked to see that obviously I'm a fashion girl. I love the fashion. I thought that that's what would like catch my eye. But when I was there, I was so fascinated by just like the cosmetics department and all these cosmetics buyers and what they were doing and what was cool, what wasn't, what was missing. And that was the first time that I thought like, oh, maybe there is a way to bridge my true passion of fashion and beauty and all of that with the medical side and the skincare and also working with family. So that was about 10 years ago now. Time flies. And I decided to go back to the family business. So, a big piece of that was there was really a white space at that point. There wasn't really a skincare brand that was dabbling in makeup. Makeup wasn't really dabbling in skincare. There was just a huge gap. So I went back and, I shared this with my dad, with the team, and that's when we launched our enhancement category. So if you'll have to try, if you haven't already, the Danny Glowing Skin Perfector, named after my mom because she does not wear foundation. It's like this great universal fabulous glowing product. But that was our first step into that arena. And I just loved working with family. And it's very much, I always say it's church and state because my dad is on the medical side, he's practicing, and I'm on the business side. So it's like you're working with your family, but it's not 24/7. So yeah, it was really great. I basically started from the ground up, was doing, I think my first role was social media, and then it was communications, working with, I guess there weren't like true influencers back then, but makeup artists like YouTube makeup, like Desi Perkins, that whole area, working with collaborations and mailers, all that good stuff. Then I moved into PR, and then COVID hit. Our CEO at the time called me and she basically just said, COVID has hit. We're fully restructuring the company, and I need you to build out and run the new product development department. And I thought she was crazy because I had never been in this area at all. I'm like, me? You want me to do that? She said, it's fine. We'll have training wheels. We'll have somebody come, help you out or train you, mentor you. And I'm so happy I did it. It's the best thing I truly ever did because it kind of led me to where I am now. I think being really at the core of our brand, when you're marketing, and obviously you guys know this well, it's very easy to storytell and to come up with, ingredient stories and what the consumer wants, but to actually be with a product from beginning to end, from, inception and really just working with doctor, he practices full time. So to be able to hear from his patients directly, to get very interesting, cool new ingredients from his medical journals, like that piece of it, to work with the lab, to test, and then do the marketing piece, it kind of just all tied together. So because of that, I moved more so into marketing, which is really where I am now, overseeing, social media communications, um, marketing, product development, et cetera. And then I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but the second piece has really been becoming a face of the brand. So that happened about probably a year or two at this point ago. And I mean, if you had told me 10 years ago I would be filming myself talking to a camera, I would have laughed. But that's a majority of my role now. It's, speaking directly to the consumer, coming up with fun videos just to have that like young female relatable voice. And a little background, sorry, I went a little off track, but on the actual skincare brand. So, Dr. Lancer founded this brand. He started practicing in the 80s, always had this brand available to all of his patients, but it was never, consumer facing or commercial until Oprah was actually one of his patients. And she said, these products are incredible. It's crazy that nobody has access to them. So she launched us, I believe it was in 2011. Can't believe it's been, I guess, 15 years. And the rest is history. So here we are. I love it.
That's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your journey, but also
Yeah.
Lancer's journey as well. I want to double click into something you said specifically around it being a family business. I think there are a lot of
Yes.
assumptions in the industry about, what it's like to actually grow up in a family business. And I'm curious to hear from you, what's something people maybe assume about growing up in a family business that isn't actually true?
I think it's different depending, one, on your actual family, two, the industry, and three, the size of the company. We're not, like a huge, huge, huge brand. So it operates a bit differently. I would say the biggest misconception, people think, oh, you're the daughter, you walked in as CMO the day you showed up, and that's it. And I would almost argue it's the opposite. I think because my last name is Lancer, I had to like double prove myself. And it's funny, I actually was on a podcast maybe like 2 or so months ago with another team member of ours. And she was saying, Blair, I always have to push you because you have these ideas and you want to execute them, but you're like too scared to push anyone because you think since you're a Lancer, like I try not to like overstep. So I would say that's definitely it. People think I just like make all the decisions and don't really address anyone else's concerns. And it is the absolute opposite when it's your company, I would say.
Absolutely. And I think it's funny that people jump to that, right? That doesn't
Yeah,
really make a lot of sense like when you think about it in practice. And I think one of the things you touched on is the work that you're doing to actually kind of lead a shift at Lancer, particularly to go
totally.
into that younger category and have the brand resonate a little bit more in terms of how the look and feel is and the tone of voice. And so what
Totally.
actually sparked that need? Is that something that you felt like it was time to go into a new category? What kind of sparked that for you?
Yes, I think it had to be a couple summers ago. I was with a bunch of friends and they're pretty well versed in this industry. And I was saying, our products are so amazing. And they said, I know they're so great, but like, I think people look at them and think they're not ready yet. And it just clicked. That's what it is. We were almost coming off as like your mother's brand. Like, I'm not of a certain age yet. I don't have fine lines or wrinkles. I don't need to be bothered. In the meantime, let me just stick with like pink, fun, fruity watermelon skincare, whatever it may be, like just fun stuff. So I would say that definitely sparked it. And, people always ask me, I'm somebody, I don't get filler, I don't get Botox. I haven't had like, I pretty much just get facials. And, knock on wood, people compliment my skin. And I always say, less is more. I almost think people who get a lot done, sometimes that ages you. But that's because of using this really incredible, let's call it clinical doctor brand skincare since I was, 11-ish years old, 12 years old. So I thought, we're really missing that piece. People need to see this brand as multi-generational. Like it's not necessarily once you hit a certain age. And I think it was coming off a bit almost like cold and clinical and just not approachable, not relatable. And so, I thought, what is the best way to change that? And I really figured it's not necessarily through the education and the storytelling quite yet with the ingredients and the products, but it was that like first hit with the consumer of the visual when they first see you. So, that's a couple different pieces. One, if they want to look you up or Google you, that's the website. So we did a full website revamp. Two, packaging. We did a body revamp, and you'll start to see like we just launched a new product a couple months ago. That's a newer packaging. That's kind of that'll be an evolution. We didn't want to just shock people with like a full rebrand, right off the bat. But you'll start to see that. And then the biggest piece was really social media, which I'm sure is no shock. But the social media piece, I mean, when we started, let's call it 15 years ago, everything was so aesthetically pleasing. Like everything on social media had to be so perfect. It was like a well orchestrated photo shoot. And that's just not the case anymore. And I think as the consumer gets younger and more intrigued by skincare, you kind of have to adapt. I don't really believe in following trends, and we can get into that. But it was more so we just needed to be authentic and real and true to ourselves, but in a way that felt relatable and just not so scary. So now we have, lighter social media, and we have a lot of UGC and real people coming out who have used the products, trying everything. We've gone to TikTok and Instagram. We were predominantly Facebook before that. But yeah, I think that was the first moment that sparked it. And now it's just been this kind of long evolution. We didn't want this one hit wonder moment. We didn't want it to be, today we're relaunching the brand. Here's all new packaging. Here's a new website. Here's this. We just figured we want the consumer to grow with us, and we're going to make changes along the way. So yeah, that was a long winded answer, but that's what sparked it.
No, that's great. And I want to go back to that trends conversation here in a minute. But first, I'm just kind of curious. You already kind of teed up, that you're doing all of these different things on these different platforms. When
Yeah.
you're overseeing everything from product to social to any sort of campaigns that you're building, how do you just ensure that everything is staying cohesive and aligned with that brand image and with what you guys are trying to accomplish goal wise?
I would almost argue, and I think a lot of people probably would disagree with me, but I think if you're having to try to be cohesive, then you may not fully be authentic to yourself. I think that if you really know your heritage, you really know your brand and your core, and you've done that work, everything just naturally and organically will be cohesive. Like, for example, we now have two voices. We used to only have one, which was Dr. Lancer. Now you have the two of us. We have him. He's in a white lab coat. He is the science, the authenticity. He's that trust that you have. And then we introduced my voice, which is, like I said, younger, female, more relatable. But our story is the same. Our messaging is the same. Like nothing has really changed or shifted. We're just showing you this is what has worked for X amount of years. We've gotten great feedback on this. So this is what we're bringing out. This is our truth. And even back to social media, like here are other people who have experienced the brand. So on all of our channels and all of our retailers, everything we're doing, it just organically becomes cohesive because we know our story so well and we really stick to it.
Yeah, no, that's great. I really love that point. And I guess similar to just following trends, right? Like if you
Yeah,
know who you are and who you're speaking to as a brand, a lot of these trends often I'm sure for you don't quite make sense to tap into. So tell us a little
totally.
bit more about just your approach with trends. Like how do you guys look at that as a brand overall and what's your approach to content instead?
Yeah, I mean, The content piece is one piece of it. I mean, especially TikTok more so, I would say, than Instagram, maybe both, but on TikTok, it's so easy to fall into that. And people come up with these skincare trends that like I don't even know where these are coming from. They're so wild. But people will just look at, I like this influencer, I like the way she looks, so I'm going to copy exactly what she does to a T. And this person has, different skin than you do, different skincare, different genetics. Like there's so many things that go into this. Copying one person never really works out well. But I do feel the same way with trends that when you're chasing a trend, it shows. People can tell. Like I, even as a consumer, I can tell when other brands are doing it. It's just not authentic. And you almost, again, you lose your core and it's like they're throwing spaghetti at the wall and just seeing what sticks. Then you're almost diluting your demographic a little bit because some people are going to like one thing, some people are going to like this, other people are going to like this. So you're like spreading yourself too thin versus really focusing on your core demographic and then bringing people in who actually resonate with your core. So I would say that. I also think it's a really big issue with ingredients. So I think some people will hear, like a random buzzword, and brands will look and see, okay, this exact term is all over the place. Right? Like longevity, I would say, is like the biggest one right now. Such a buzzword. Most people don't even know what it means 100%. I actually went to an event yesterday off topic where they were discussing this. And this person who had built a whole wellness center on longevity was even saying, we don't fully know it. So, like, we're all just learning. It's very easy and like very early. But anyway, the point of this is a lot of brands will look at a buzzword and just say, okay, we have to shoot out a product right now. Like, this is going to be the new hot ingredient for 2026. Let's just get a label product, bring it, like, slap our label on and sell it. And the issue with that is you're always chasing trends, you're always chasing the buzz. So your products might not always be the best. Like if you're doing white label all the time, just throwing a label on there, people are going to start to see that the efficacy is not there. So I think if you wait until even a year or two down the line when the ingredients and the technology improves, you're going to get an ingredient or a product that's significantly better. People are going to try it. They're going to rebuy. They'll be a repeat customer versus, just throwing things together for the hell of it because you've heard this word online.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that too, that tees up my next question perfectly. So, what does clinical credibility actually mean in a world full of marketing buzzwords? Like, what are you guys kind of leaning into on your packaging and in your marketing
Yeah.
to ensure that there's that authenticity and transparency there?
Totally. So, I mean, I would say, again, our biggest point of difference, even as a doctor brand, we have a doctor who's in office 5 days a week. So, already that's our clinical credibility. Like, he's a board certified dermatologist. He's around, you know, all of his different clients and patients every day. He hears what's going on, he sees things firsthand. It's not like outdated information. And because of that, he also gets, his medical journals and access to things that other people necessarily, wouldn't. But yeah, I would say that that's the biggest thing. And our core is really practice to product. So we always talk about, every single product we come out with is supposed to almost mimic in a way the results of different treatments and procedures that we offer in our office. So, the polish, which we were saying we all love, that's a product that mimics our microdermabrasion that most of our patients get done. We have our caviar line, which is supposed to mimic both a facial in the jar and some of the peels that we have at the office. So it's really important, I think, to bridge those two. And that's something that we have access to that a lot of people don't. That's the credibility that all of this is coming from a clinic, no pun intended, where all of these procedures are almost, I guess, influencing the at home products that you're seeing.
And that's just a natural way to storytell, right? Because you have those real life examples. And I think as a consumer, I know I love to know that it's backed by real science and that I'm not just putting a cream on my forehead that is meant to do one thing and does another, right? I think there is real credibility, authenticity, and also quality that comes from that type of
Totally.
storytelling that I think Lancer is doing so well. And I'd love to hear from your POV, kind of what excites you most about where the skincare industry is headed, but in general, but also with Lancer as part of that industry?
I was actually going to piggyback off of what you just said, which also answers this question. I am not an expert by any means, so I'm like, limit your questions, but AI, I think, is just really going to change the entire game. I don't know how yet. I think it's so early. I think we've seen how AI can change, can make everyone's lives easier, at least on our phones and our computers, like electronically, digitally. I'm very excited to see where that goes, like in real three dimension, like with actual products. It's very early. We still have to see what happens. But, you were talking about authenticity. The consumer, you can't hide anymore. You can't hide anything from the consumer. All you have to do is throw something into Claude, ChatGPT, whatever it is, and the full transparency is there. So I think that's such a big thing. And now that consumers know that, that goes with the trust. But, I don't really know. I do think AI will really limit the need for trial and error. That's a big thing that I've been saying. I think right now, it's so easy to, like I said, look at an influencer. They're using this product. Let me try it. You try it at home. You think you have dry skin. You don't. You break out. I think being able to input products, I think there's a company called Oasis. Is that the app where you can scan the barcodes? It might be. I'll look
Oh,
into
I
it. I'll
don't
get back to you.
know.
But like, yeah, it scans and it tells you about different foods. I wonder if that will be the case for
Oh,
skincare as well.
interesting.
Yes, and being able to leverage that technology
Yeah.
and really use AI to tailor and to customize for your actual needs. I think that people have a lot of skincare concerns, and we all do. We think we're dry or we have fine lines, wrinkles, whatever it is. But I think narrowing that down and having AI help you maybe focus on one thing at a time or put together a regimen where you're not like doing 15 things at once where they work against each other and then you get nowhere. That authenticity from, I guess, from the brand being then spit into AI through the transparency you get after, that's going to change things. As far as Lancer, I mean, we want to keep implementing AI as much as we can. That's what I would say. I'm very curious to see how, our lab will continue to utilize AI and how our products will change, how the process will change. Launching a product now, you guys know, could take a year or 2 years. It takes a while. So how will that process speed up? Then going back to, these buzzwords. Right now, people want to rush, 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 white label, move on. Maybe that won't be the case anymore because we'll be able to do things very quickly.
It sounds like there's a lot of excitement just around implementing the AI process and kind
Yeah,
of seeing how it works, like even on site or,
totally.
in the office, however it can kind of help make that journey of skincare just more personalized and
Totally.
customized for patients, which I think is really, really cool and very anxious to see what you do there for sure. I want
Totally.
to pivot a little bit back to just career journey in general. We have a lot of listeners that are very into the beauty, skincare, kind of just industry and fashion as well, truthfully, which I think people will resonate a lot with your journey in terms of starting
Yes.
in fashion and then kind of making the jump over to beauty. So as starting in social, kind of growing into now your role is CMO, which includes product development and other kind of arms of marketing. What pieces of what pieces of your journey do you feel like helped make that leap for you?
I think, well, the biggest piece of advice through all of this, which kind of goes to your question, I don't think you have to focus on the destination. I think so many of us do that. When I was 16, 17, whenever applying to school, I thought, I need to know what I want to do. And then I graduated. Okay, I'm at Saks now. I have to be here forever. This is my trajectory. So I think focusing more so on the journey. I would also say just say yes to things. For example, like the biggest piece to answer your question that really shifted my career and my journey was, I mean, I was so shocked. I had no idea what to do when my boss called me and said, "You're taking over NPD." I like barely knew what that was at the time. But I said yes, and you definitely will fail. I had a bad product fail, but it ended up working out really well for us, which I'm happy to share. But don't be afraid of that. I think people get so nervous to say yes to something that might not be exactly what they want. There can be something that's adjacent or maybe in an industry that's just close enough. Like if you want skincare, you can start in fashion or beauty. Like people move around. It's a lot about networking, it's connections. Show people you're a really hard worker. Show them that you have interest and you're willing to try, and you never know where you'll end up. Again, I have been all over, even within our company. I mean, if I were to tell someone I've been in social media, communications, product, online, social, I mean, these are like all different things. And they've all helped in some way. But Yeah, that would be it. Just try different things. Something will shift and like put you on, I guess, on the right path.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. I reference this quote all the time, but we had a guest probably a year ago or so who said you have to collect the dots before you connect the dots. And it really is just
So
about gathering
true.
information and experience. And then one day you'll look at everything and everything will just kind of connect together, which is awesome. So,
Totally.
yeah. Yeah.
I so agree.
Yeah. Well, Blair, on that too, we also have a lot of listeners that are interested in getting into the beauty industry. So I'm just curious, like to those listeners, what would you say to them? Any tips, or as you're hiring and just looking to build out a team, like what are some of those skill sets that you're looking for, et cetera? Anything you'd say there?
So I think one thing now with AI, people really crave like the intimacy of an actual human or a personality. Be somebody who is really eager and really passionate and so excited to work. When I hire people, and this sounds terrible, I skim their resume. I look at it, I see what they've done, and that's fine, but that doesn't tell me much about the person. I would I would much rather hire somebody who's come to me with almost no experience, who is so excited to learn, who's like ambitious, passionate, wants to be in this industry, and will literally do anything, try anything, be in all different areas of the business before I hire somebody who has like this stellar resume, but you just don't feel that it's like an intangible kind of feeling. So I think that's really important. I will say, I'm starting a Substack. My first Substack, I wrote yesterday, and I started off with this kind of notion when I guess I got my first job in 2016, so call it 10 years ago. We had to hide who we were. Like we had to delete all of our Facebook photos. We had to hide everybody on Instagram. Like if you were seen with a red Solo cup, like that was it. And I don't believe in that. I think people should have their own life outside of work. People should have hobbies, they should have friends, they should have things going on that make them really happy and excited about life because that will come into work. When someone has that like zest for life and excitement, they'll also be really passionate and thrilled to be at work and working with you and building something. So honestly, again, maybe a hot take, a lot of people probably would disagree, but that's far more important to me.
I resonate so deeply with that. Just looking at, teams that I've been on and it's
Yeah,
always the people that have other sort of extracurricular activities that they're involved
totally.
in or other income streams and things like that that feel really aligned with what they're doing in, whether it's a full-time job or a part-time job, whatever that looks like. I completely resonate with that. And I think that's great advice. So thank you so much for sharing
Totally.
that.
Of course.
And Blair, this has been incredible. As Cassie mentioned at the top of the episode, we're big fans. We've been loving using the product. Thank you, thank you. Would love if you could share where everyone can find you and follow along with you the journey for you and for also Lancer as well.
Sure, sure. So, Lancer, we're just at Lancer Skincare for, I guess, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all over. I started a TikTok not maybe a year-ish ago now, where it's very much like it's just scattered. It's like me and my personality, my fashion, my beauty, all those kinds of things. So that's just at Blair Lancer. And then my Instagram is also my name. That's a little calmer. But that's, for skincare and travel and life and all of that.
Awesome. Blair, thank you so much again for just sharing your journey with us.
Thank
We're so
you.
excited to see what you guys continue to build and do, and we'll definitely be checking in here in a bit. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Marketing Happy Hour.
If you enjoyed it, make sure you're subscribed to the show and sign up for our weekly newsletter with insights and marketing resources.
We also invite you to check out the MHH Collective, our community for marketers looking to connect, grow, and learn together.
Check out the links in the show notes. We'll see you next time.